Filling the gaps. So if you're like me, which I'm currently in this state, but writing, the beginning and the end seem to come a little easier. It's that middle section of the story that can become very difficult, and you're trying to figure out, what do I need to kind of place there? How do I need to get from, point A to point C with that B part? But really what it comes to, and I found, not just teaching this in screenwriting, in multiple books, but obviously structure is very important, but it's kind of filling in those gaps and finding, where you're setting things up and where you're paying them off, and almost like a series of three. If you have something that's setting up in Act 1, can you show this again in Act 2 and complete it in Act 3? And I've used Blake Schneider's, Save the Cat book, Robert McKee's story, John Truby. There's just all these great writing books out there that I think are fantastic on helping you get an understanding of plot, structure, character, all that. But one that I think has been extremely helpful and beneficial is Seth Rowley's clock. And I just want to kind of show this. I don't know how well it'll appear, but you make a story clock and you kind of start to set up, other items that you maybe see in terms of setup and payoff. And it's still not easy, but you can start to say, okay, what am I doing in Act 1 with this character? And then when should I pay it off? And as you get into Act 2, and again, you've got to think about the kind of the four points. And I think that's a little bit better to bring this back up. I know it's kind of hard to see. But, if you look at Act 1 and thinking instead of in 3 acts, you almost have like 4 quadrants that you can kind of think about what's happening in each of these sections for your character. But really, I think great advice for writers out there is we all want to tell the most compelling story, and we all want people to be entertained. But I think at the same time, probably a lot of us out there don't want to just entertain people. We probably have a message we're trying to say. What is that message? Keep it primal. I know this is something that is hard for myself to do, and I try to tell my students and any other writer out there, keep it simple, keep it primal. What is it that your character wants? Remember that. Each scene and episode, section should look at, well, what is your character's desire and how are they getting there and what is their obstacle? Because of course, we've got to have conflict. Without conflict, without conflict, we don't have story. But you've got to look back to what's your character's desire, how are they going about getting that, what's stopping them from getting that, and keep it primal. Little things that we can relate to as an audience will keep that character moving. And just as your character's going through the story, look at what is needed for them in growth. Connect back to your theme of your story. Hopefully you have a theme. If you don't, look at that. That's I think another thing that most writers kind of look past. They don't go, the theme's not that important. It's actually very important. A theme, again, just like your character and every other supporting character, should relate to that theme, the overarching kind of message of your story, and then your character should be, each character should be working to something. And as you're looking at this, what's happening in the scene, what is it necessary, filling in the gap is just something that just takes time, and to kind of, especially, I would say this, because I know I'm stuck right now in that middle section. I'm about 65 pages in, but I had to go back to the beginning and start kind of restructuring. That's probably not the best method. I would say writing it, structuring it first. Do you have an idea? Mapping it out on, the story clock or whatever else you want to do, the beat sheet. Write it out. Try to finish the script and then go back and edit. Because real writing happens in revising. When you go back and rewrite and edit and figure out, okay, this wasn't working, restructuring, things like that. So today's Transparency Tuesday is really thinking about filling in the gaps. So go back and look at, how do you fill in the gaps? Think about your character, what their desire is, what the theme of the story is, and really trying to piece together. Try that story clock. You can find it online. It's pretty simple, or you can just, draw a map, or, draw a clock and map it out. But definitely make sure you're fitting in what's happening in Act 1, what's happening in Act 3, and how am I getting there? What's those gaps in between that I kind of need to fill? So hopefully everyone's doing well. Midway through April. Can't believe this month or this year is going so fast, but keep at the writing. We'd be happy to hear what kind of stories you guys are working on, where maybe you're struggling, and love to give advice. So